The fall of Louis XVI. History often moves slowly. And yet, when you look back, it can feel like a tide that creeps in quietly, barely noticeable at first, until the water is lapping at your ankles, and then your knees, and then sweeping you away. For Louis XVI, the tide was the French Revolution. But in the beginning, it did not look like revolution. It looked like murmurs, complaints whispered in markets, caricatures passed hand to hand, the steady pressure of hunger, of taxes, of debts that grew while bread seemed to shrink. Louis XVI himself was not a monster. He was, in many ways, an ordinary man placed in an extraordinary role. He loved hunting. He tinkered with locks in his spare time. He was shy, awkward even, never quite suited to the theater of monarchy that Versailles demanded. Marie Antoinette, his queen, glittered brighter. She was young, foreign, Austrian, and endlessly watched. Every choice she made, a gown, a hairstyle, a glance, was discussed, criticized, exaggerated. Together, they became symbols not just of monarchy, but of distance, of extravagance, of a court that seemed detached from the struggles of Paris and beyond. Imagine, though, the atmosphere of Versailles in the late 1780s. The palace was still gilded, still filled with music and ritual. Balls still glittered. Nobles still argued over precedence in the Hall of Mirrors. But outside the gates, bread prices were rising. The harvests had failed. Families in Paris struggled simply to eat. The contrast grew unbearable. Inside Versailles, chandeliers, silk, 1,000 candles glowing. Outside, dark streets, the smell of hunger, people standing in bread lines. The Estates General of 1789? That was the crack in the wall. For the first time in over 170 years, representatives of the people were summoned. What began as a meeting spiraled into a declaration, a national assembly, claiming authority not just to advise the king, but to rule. Imagine Louis in those moments. A man raised to believe he was chosen by God, suddenly confronted with the idea that sovereignty came from the people. He hesitated, he resisted, he tried compromise. But compromise came too late. The storming of the Bastille in July of 1789 was not simply about freeing prisoners. It was a symbol. A fortress, once feared, fell to a crowd. It was as if the people had broken the spell of royal authority. Versailles itself became dangerous. In October, the Women's March on Versailles, thousands of Parisians, many of them women, walking miles through the rain and mud, forced the royal family to move to Paris. No longer secluded in their gilded palace, they now lived under the eyes of the people at the Tuileries. For Louis, the walls closed in. At first, there was still ceremony, still ritual, but there was also suspicion, surveillance, the sense that every move was noted. In 1791, he tried to flee. The royal family disguised themselves, boarded a carriage, and slipped into the night, hoping to reach safety in the east, where loyal soldiers waited. But the plan was slow, clumsy. At Varennes, they were recognized, brought back under guard, their disguise stripped away, their authority weakened even further. Imagine the humiliation. The King of France, once the center of a glittering court, now a prisoner in all but name.